Hi folks, HatMan Sean here. It's my video response to ZeroPence's 150 plus subscriber competition. Don't enter many of these, but I thought I'd give this one a go because this is quite an exciting opportunity. A couple of years ago I started to design my own knife. It was 4 or 5mm thick blade. Just the whole thing was designed to be able to take a lot of abuse. Since then, my skill set's changed quite dramatically. I do a lot of carving. I do a lot of cooking. I need a knife that's going to be able to cover those skill sets rather than something that I can beat. So I'll take an axe to the woods with me if I need to be really chopping at wood. Other than that, I'll do everything else with a bit of a nicer blade. Thank you very much. So I thought I'd go over some of my favourite blades and why. This is obviously a Mora clipper, fantastic knife. I think most people have got one of these, and if they haven't, why not really. Tip of the blade is fantastic for most fine carving. Couple of problems with it for me is I've got two of these knives. One of them I hardly ever use. It gives me blisters within about 5 minutes. This one I can use for a substantial amount of time, and it's okay, but it's just not incredibly comfortable on really long-term heavy-duty use. Also, I always just get the feeling that I'm always a bit worried it's going to break on me. A couple of other features. Let's see if I can get zoomed right in there. There we go. It's quite difficult to carve from this piece of the blade because obviously you've got the, let's see if I can just spin that up on its end there. You've got the shoulder. Oh, there we go. You've got the shoulder here, so unless you've got a piece of wood that kind of comes in directly here, it's quite difficult to carve with that part of the blade, and that's quite a useful feature. Let's see if I can tuck that lens cap out of the way. So, Mora clipper, nice knife, does some things really well. Next for me will be the Mora, I don't know what it's called, it's their wood carving knife. Very nice, again, nice thin blade. I believe it's 1.5 or 2mm thick. You can get right up to here to carve, but obviously you've to hold the blade and choke up on the blade. It can be quite difficult at times. It tends to be a blade that you hold very much like this or with a reverse grip, but you can't really, I find it quite a difficult blade to choke up on to actually work with, and I like to do a lot of work really fine up with my hands over the back of the blade. Oh, sorry, one more thing on this. Handle on this is superb. I can use it most of the day long without having any problems at all. Especially after a couple of days of use. First day or so, I think it doesn't matter what knife you use, you're going to end up with blisters. Next for me would be the TBS bore. It was a gift from a friend of mine. Very nice knife, UK legal folding knife. Doesn't hold an edge quite as well as I would hope, but does take an edge back very easily. Nice knife. It's got a fine enough tip to it, although could do with being a little finer, as you can see there. I'll lay that on top. A little bit wide. One more thing about this one, the tip of the knife is useful, but I find if I'm doing any carving down to this kind of quality, I probably would be taking my finer carving kit with me, so I wouldn't need this kind of thinness on my tip of my blade. Next for me would be my kitchen knife, which is a Japanese knife of some kind. I'm sure it's got a I don't know what it's called. It's it's a nice knife. It works incredibly well. It's incredibly sharp. A few things I particularly like about this knife. The handle, its simplicity is beautiful. You can't really go wrong with it. There's no... I can use this knife for hours and hours and hours and not have a single part of my hand thinking, ow. Couple of features for the knife. If I was to use it for carving, obviously the end is not really fine enough for carving. But this feature here is my favourite feature of this knife. Is you can get right here and you can use this bit of the knife. So if I spin that round and hold that there, you can see I can get right in up close. If I choke up on the blade, I can get really comfortable on the blade. Fantastic. I mean, I can get, what, 3 inches of the blade, 2 inches of the blade, really covered well. Fantastic. So, a few features for the knives that I've got that I really liked. You have to bear with me, guys. My phone keeps telling me it's full on memory, and I'm sure it's not. So, I might have to have a look. Anyway, that's why it keeps cutting out and I keep having to reset. So I did a first design. I can't say preliminary at the moment for some reason. So this was my original design of the knife. Obviously, like I say, I like quite a fine point on the blade without it being too fine. And I like being able to carve from this bit. I like being able to use this bit of the blade. So the actual sharpened edge would start here. And you've got this choil. Now, I did this design, which I really like, but I don't know if I can show that here. Obviously, oh god, let's keep the lens cap out of the way. Stop it! Right. If I'm holding this knife here, my fingers are nice and away from that. Keep dropping the blade. My fingers are nice and away from that very sharp edge there. So I can really choke up on it and I haven't got any problems. Now if let's just use this knife as a for instance. No, actually not. Let's use this knife as a for instance. If this bit was sharp and my hand was here, it would be touching the sharpened edge, which wouldn't be very safe. Small problem, a bit of an annoyance. So next I thought I'd try and make the choil a little bit deeper, but I don't know, it didn't work for me. I didn't like it. So I thought I'd add in a secondary, if we have a look at the blade, the next one here, add in a secondary scallop. And if we was to kind of do a sharpened edge from there, I could then get right in this corner, like it. So, let's cut across to my final designs, or final-ish. Final enough. Right, okay, where are we going? We have got a blade with a relatively fine point. Actually a little bit finer point than the Mora Clipper, but not very much. So it would still be tough enough to do most work. The blade width of this knife, I was thinking probably about 2.5mm, perhaps as much as 3, but definitely not any more than that. I was thinking 2.5 would be probably enough. Handle, very similar to the handle on my Japanese kitchen knife, although slightly more, slightly wider at the far end of the handle than the close end, purely because if I needed to put any pressure on from here, I'm less likely to slip if it's slightly wider. The other features is obviously you've got the choil here, I think that's what it's called, and then this secondary scallop so we can actually carve from here, which is really exciting. And this feature here, I haven't got it on any of my knives, and I don't know why it's not on a knife, because it's one of the features I've always thought would be useful, especially for carving, is this. Oh, I'm trying to point to it on my phone. This bit here is actually scalloped inwards. So I don't know if you can imagine. If we look at the back of this blade, let's see if I can hold that in such a way so we can still see it. There we go. So from kind of here, it would curve in, which means I could really choke up. I'm going to see if I can show you as if this was actually being held. So I'd be able to tuck my finger in that choil guard there and really choke up, with this being very comfortable in the swell of my hand. Yeah, so the handle would kind of scallop in from here and here. So this would be from the top where the scallop is quite shallow, and this is from the bottom where the scallop is quite deep. From there to there is quite a long way, whereas from there to there is quite shallow. But that would make your hand be able to fit this beautifully. Anyway, thanks ZeroPence. Hope you like my design. HatMan Sean's really enjoyed that. Even if you don't get to make it, I enjoyed the process of having a design. Thanks a lot. HatMan Sean out.